You ever wake up thinking it's going to be just another quiet morning on the ranch? Coffee steaming in your hand, sunrise painting the horizon, and then realize your day's about to turn into a slapstick episode starring angry cows, a frantic HOA president, and one very tired sheriff? That was my Tuesday in a nutshell. See, I've got a good spread of land tucked just past the edge of a lazy little town. Wide skies, rolling fields, and more peace than I probably deserve. The HOA's jurisdiction technically ends about a mile before my gate, but apparently technically doesn't mean much when Karen, the self-appointed president for life of the Willow Creek Estates HOA, decides my ranch trail is her own personal shortcut. Now, this trail isn't just a dirt road. It's how I move my cattle between pastures. Everyone around here knows that. Everyone except Karen, whose oversized SUV and unstoppable sense of entitlement treat warning signs like yard ornaments. She'd already been told twice to stay off, once by me, once by my bull Diablo. Guess which warning she took less seriously. Anyway, that morning I'm halfway through my first cup of coffee when I hear tires crunching over gravel. I glance up and, sure enough, there's that shiny white SUV halfway up the hill, wedged like a beached whale. She wasn't just passing through either. She'd parked dead center, engine off, snapping photos of my fence like she was collecting evidence. Now, a normal person surrounded by private property and no trespassing signs might get the hint. But Karen? She was on a mission. Claimed my fencing violated community sightline regulations. I nearly spit out my coffee laughing. "Lady, your community stops where my land begins," I muttered. But I didn't even need to step in, because that's when Diablo and his buddies Butch and Bandit decided to handle the situation themselves. If you've ever owned bulls, you know they've got a sixth sense for nonsense. Diablo snorted, pawed at the dirt, and started that slow, swaggering walk that says, "You've got 3 seconds to explain yourself." From my porch, I could hear Karen yelling, "Shoo! Go away," like they were pigeons. Butch wasn't impressed. He flicked his tail, let out a snort, and suddenly Karen was on top of her SUV, clutching her purse like it was a life raft. I should have helped right then. But truth be told, I couldn't stop laughing. There she was, queen of the HOA, perched like a terrified flamingo while 3 bulls encircled her, snorting and inspecting their new guest. She must have called for help, because a few minutes later I saw the sheriff's truck kick up dust along the road. Sheriff Daniels stepped out, one hand on his belt, the other shading his eyes. Took one look at the scene and muttered, "Oh, for crying out loud." Karen spotted him and started shouting, "Arrest him! His animals attacked me!" Daniels just raised an eyebrow. "Karen, they're standing still. You're the one on his land," she huffed, waving her clipboard like it was a badge. "This trail connects to community property. I have the right to inspect." Daniels let out a sigh so deep it might have come from his soul. "Ma'am, the only right you've got is to apologize and move before they decide you're part of breakfast." I finally wandered over, coffee still in hand, doing my best not to grin. "Sheriff, I'd move them, but I think they're enjoying the entertainment." Daniels smirked. "Let 'em. Teaches folks to read signs." Karen wasn't amused. "This isn't over. I'm filing a formal complaint," she barked, wobbling on her hood. "Go ahead," Daniels said dryly. "Just make sure you're not trespassing when you deliver it. I swear, I've never seen someone reverse faster once those bulls gave her a farewell snort." Dust flew, tires screeched, and that SUV disappeared like it was late for Sunday service. Diablo just stared after her, snorted once, then sauntered back to the pasture like he'd finished his morning patrol. That bull deserved a medal. What I didn't realize at the time was that Karen wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Her pride had taken a hit, and her ego was big enough to fill the county. By sundown, she'd rallied her board, called an emergency meeting, and declared she was reclaiming my trail, because apparently my ranch was part of her grand community plan. That's when things went from hilarious to downright ridiculous. By sunrise the next morning, I figured the whole fiasco would have burned out on the HOA gossip line. But Karen? She doesn't let humiliation die quietly. She turns it into a crusade. Around 8 a.m., I saw 3 SUVs creeping up my access road. Didn't need binoculars to know who led the charge. Karen. Bright pink blazer flashing like a warning light. Behind her were Greg, who always looked confused, and Linda, clutching her binder of HOA codes like it was scripture. They parked at my gate, piled out with clipboards and cameras, and started snapping photos like crime scene investigators. My bulls were down in the lower pasture, but still close enough to see. Diablo lifted his head, spotted her, and gave a low, rumbling grunt that said, "Oh, it's her again." I stepped out to the fence, coffee in hand, ready for whatever circus came next. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep a straight face. "Morning, folks. What brings the HOA patrol back to my property again?" Karen puffed up like a rooster. "We're here on official business. This trail is an easement that connects community access to the lake. As HOA president, I have the authority to inspect and regulate it." I took a slow sip of coffee. "An easement, huh? That's funny, because the county deed says otherwise. But hey, go ahead and inspect if you must. Just don't mind the livestock." Greg shifted uneasily. Maybe we should double-check." Karen shot him a glare that could melt steel. "Greg, don't start." Linda flipped through her massive binder. "According to Article 14, Section B of the HOA bylaws," I cut in, "which don't apply past your subdivision's boundary, you're standing half a mile beyond it, meaning right now, you're on my land." Karen ignored me completely, marching right past the gate, clipboard raised like a royal decree. "If you've got nothing to hide," she said sharply, "you won't mind a simple inspection." That's when she stepped straight into a fresh pile of cow manure. The sound that came out of her could have shattered glass. She froze, looked down at her sparkling white sneakers, and started hopping like the dirt was lava. Greg tried, once and failed, to stifle a laugh. "Karen, maybe we should—" "Don't talk to me, Greg!" she shrieked. By now, Diablo and his two pasture buddies had noticed the commotion. They ambled up the hill, tails swishing, each footstep heavier than the last. Karen froze mid-hop, clipboard trembling. "Oh no, not again." Only this time, she'd brought reinforcements, and one of them was live streaming. Yep. Linda had her phone out, broadcasting to the HOA Facebook group like it was a breaking news segment. "President Karen is conducting a lawful inspection," she narrated breathlessly, "despite intimidation from the ranch owner's animals." I leaned on the fence and called out, "They're not intimidating anyone. They're just deciding if she's trespassing. Or stupid." That line must have hit the stream, because laughter erupted from Linda's phone. Comments flooded in, laughing emojis everywhere, one guy even typing, "Don't mess with the bull, Karen." Karen turned beet red. "Turn that off, Linda." "Too late," I said, and right on cue, the faint wail of a siren rolled down the road. Sheriff Daniels again. He slowed his cruiser to a crawl, rolled down his window, and groaned. "Didn't we just do this yesterday?" Karen stomped toward him, bits of manure still clinging to her shoe. "Sheriff, he's blocking a public right-of-way. We're here to reclaim it!" Daniels rubbed his temples. "Ma'am, this isn't a right-of-way. It's private property. I told you that yesterday. You keep pushing this, and you're the one committing a crime." Karen jabbed a finger at him. "You're supposed to protect the community." "I am," Daniels said dryly. "From people who can't read property lines. You'd think he slapped her." She gasped, offended to her core. "I'm reporting this to the county." "Go ahead," I said with a grin. "You'll find my name on the deed, not yours." That's when Diablo wandered a little closer, close enough to snort loudly right behind her. Karen jumped a full foot in the air. Greg yelped. Linda dropped her phone. And I swear, Daniels was laughing so hard he had to lean on his cruiser for balance. Karen spun, pointed at Diablo, and shrieked, "That animal is dangerous! I want him removed!" Daniels shook his head. "Lady, that bull lives here." "You don't. Maybe it's time to move along." She didn't find that funny, but everyone else did, especially the hundreds of people now watching the replay online. An hour later, the HOA convoy peeled out, tires squealing, Karen yelling something about bringing in county inspectors. I figured it was all empty threats, until 2 days later when a letter showed up stamped in big, bold letters, "Notice of property violation, unauthorized obstruction of community access road." She'd actually filed a complaint with the county, claiming my private trail was a public road, and somehow they'd sent an inspector to check it out. That's when I knew this was about to go from a funny misunderstanding to a full-blown legal circus. 2 mornings later, just as I was settling in for my peaceful coffee, I heard an unfamiliar engine on the gravel road. Peeking out the window, I spotted a county truck, official seal on the door, and a man in khakis stepping out with a clipboard. Not another Karen, thank the Lord, but definitely a guy who took forms a little too seriously. He introduced himself as Inspector Raymond, there to evaluate a possible right-of-way obstruction. His voice was polite, but his eyes said, "I already regret being here." Before I could even offer him coffee, a familiar screech echoed down the trail. "There he is!" Didn't even have to look. Karen was back, this time in a blinding yellow sundress, marching like she was leading a parade. Behind her came Greg, clutching a roll of blueprints, and Linda filming again, because humiliation had become her favorite sport. The inspector sighed. "Oh, you must be the HOA president." Karen beamed like royalty being recognized. "Yes, I'm here to assist your investigation. This rancher has been illegally blocking community access to the lake. It's disgraceful," I smirked. "Right, because barbed wire fences and bulls are exactly what the county intended for public recreation." Karen ignored me and pointed at the trail. "This is the access road. It's been part of our subdivision since the early 90s. I folded my arms. "Funny. My family's owned this ranch since 1958. The inspector raised an eyebrow. "You have documentation of that?" "Oh, I've got better than that," I said, heading toward the house. "Give me 5 minutes," Karen huffed. "Don't let him distract you with fake paperwork. He's been threatening us with those animals." The inspector glanced at the bulls grazing quietly behind the fence. They seemed calm enough to me. When I came back, I carried a thick, dust-covered binder that smelled faintly like age and victory. Inside were original deeds, maps, and one very old, but very official, county document. "This," I said, handing it over, "is the 1958 land survey showing that this entire trail, plus the land where Willow Creek Estates now sits, belonged to my grandfather. He sold those lots on one condition, that the boundary ended at the creek. Not 1 inch further. This trail is not an easement. It's private ranch land. Always has been." The inspector flipped through the papers, his brow furrowing deeper with each page. "Well, I'll be. This deed is still active, and it specifically excludes community access." Karen's smile froze. "That can't be right." "Oh, it's right," I said, grinning. "In fact, my grandfather even included a clause stating that if the HOA or its successors ever attempted to extend their authority past that creek, the land rights of the entire subdivision could be legally challenged." The inspector looked up, startled. "That's unusually specific." "Yeah," I said, sipping my coffee. "He didn't trust busybodies." Karen's face turned the color of ripe tomatoes. "You can't threaten us with ancient paperwork." "It's not a threat," I said. "It's the law." At that moment, Sheriff Daniels' cruiser pulled up again. Apparently, he'd been called by the inspector as a precaution. He got out looking exhausted but clearly entertained. "Don't tell me we're doing this again." Karen marched up to him. "Sheriff, he's trying to intimidate me with false documents." Daniels took the binder, flipped through it, and chuckled. "Karen, this is the county's own seal. It's legit." "You're trespassing again," she stammered. But the HOA has jurisdiction." Daniels smirked. "The HOA's jurisdiction ends at the creek, same as it always has. You just tried to extend your little thief onto his land. That's not just trespassing. It's misuse of HOA authority." You could practically see the steam pouring out of her ears. "This isn't over," she screeched. Daniels grinned. "Actually, it kind of is. The county just confirmed this trail isn't a public right-of-way. Meaning you're now facing a fine for unauthorized entry, property interference, and misuse of county resources." Karen's jaw dropped. So far, I thought she might swallow her clipboard. "You're finding me?" "Oh, yeah," Daniel said, handing her acetation. "And since you trespassed after being warned multiple times, that's a misdemeanor." "Congratulations, Madam President," Greg muttered under his breath. "Told you we should have stayed home." Meanwhile, Diablo Mustave sensed the tension because Hugh wandered back up the hill, flicking his tail and snorting in Karen's direction like he was delivering his final verdict. She shrieked and scrambled backward, tripping right into another pile of fresh manure. I swear it was like the land itself had been waiting for that moment. The sheriff tried not to laugh. The inspector pretended to be busy writing notes, and Linda, oh bless her, kept filming. That clip hit Facebook within an hour and had more views than the HOA's entire annual meeting ever got. By sunset, the county had officially dismissed the complaint, and Daniels personally installed a new sign on the trail. Private ranch property. Trespassers will be treated to a bull run. Karen's HOA didn't last much longer after that. Between the legal fees, the public humiliation, and her newfound reputation as the woman who got cornered by cows twice, she quietly resigned within a month. As for me, I built the trail gate, gave Diablo an extra helping of grain, and hung a shiny new plaque on the fence that read, "In memory of Karen's courage, may it rest in manure." The sheriff still laughs about it every time he drives by. And whenever I see a fancy SUV slow down near the trail, Diablo lifts his head, snorts once, and stands tall like he's guarding not just my land, but the entire spirit of rural justice. And honestly, he's doing a better job than any HOA ever did. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every single subscription motivates me to bring you even more exciting and dramatic HO stories. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. I'll see you in the next story, where justice gets even more satisfying.